Welcome to our webinar, Developing Leaders, Preparing Your Pathway. I'm Marshall Shannon with Ministry Design Training. We want you to provide for your congregation a clear picture of your leadership development process. You want to show them your game plan. What do you hope to accomplish? What are you trying to develop in them? Why are you trying to develop them? How are you trying to develop them and help them commit to the leadership development process? In doing so, you must answer some key questions at the outset to help people commit. And so you as the leader, if you're going to develop a leadership development program where you evaluate, enlist, and you begin to equip and educate and build leaders in your ministry, that you have to know the pathway. As the leader, you have to know where you're going and have a vision for that, have a clear understanding of the biblical mandate to build leaders, and then a process that is customized to your ministry so that you can fulfill this part of building leaders who will partner with Christ and with your church to fulfill his commission to us. And so here are some questions we suggest that you answer in order to help people see the need for what you're doing, and then agree to partner with God and allow themselves to be placed under your mentorship and coaching and leadership so that they in turn can reach their full potential as a leader servant in the cause of Christ. So you want to make certain you can answer how leaders are made, and what will your process look like, and what will be required of those that will join you in your leadership development program. And what steps are going to be taken? How long will the process take? What additional workload will it require of them? In essence, you are developing your theology of leadership development along with a convincing argument about why people need to commit to the program. So there are three basic functions of ministry leadership. There are leaders who are doers. They perform the work of the ministry. They, perhaps as a pastor, you're doing weddings and funerals and preaching and teaching and counseling and studying and praying, and all those things are good, but you're also doing day-to-day tasks and week-to-week tasks that are involved in the ministry, and you are a doer. Now, pastors will establish their credibility by showing their capability and capacity to perform the work of the ministry. But they're doers. They're out doing it. They're not developing others. The second level, or the second function of ministry leadership, is you have delegators. Usually in a small church, a pastor is doing everything, and he is performing ministry and doing the work of the ministry. He might not be doing as much equipping people for the ministry or delegating, but as the church grows, and in order for the church to grow, the key leaders are going to have to delegate responsibility to called and gifted people who can perform the ministry perhaps better than any of the leaders can do it. And so delegation, and you think of Jethro coming to Moses and suggesting that he rearrange and restructure the way that he was judging the disputes among the people. The third function of ministry leadership is that of developers. We're going to walk out of these three, but tie together these three functions with 5 levels of leadership. If you're going to create that pathway, you want to show them where you're leading them in their development as a leader or a servant leader or as a leader. So in this, we're going to talk about 5 levels of ministry leadership. The first one, and the foundational one, is that of rank. This rank is a position. It's leadership by position. People follow because they have to. So it is the lowest level of leadership, and influence is often tied solely to the job title. So leadership on this level is based on the rights granted by the title. It's like you standing and saying, I'm the pastor, you're supposed to follow me. You can hold the office or position of a leader, but not be a leader. You can be a boss, but not a spiritual leader. You may view people as subordinates and not team members. And so it is very possible for you to be in a position of leadership, pastor, elder, deacon, steward, trustee, director of ministry, and not be a leader. So you may rely on the rules, regulations, church policies, and the organizational charts in your organization and your ministry to control people because you're solely filling a position, and your only leadership influence is the fact that you're in a place of leadership, not that you are a person of influence. This level doesn't require ability or effort to achieve. Anyone can be appointed to a position. In fact, all you may need is the right last name. My daddy is, therefore I am. And you have the bloodline or the lineage, the last name that puts you in a place or a position of leadership. The results of this kind of leadership left to itself without you being a developing, growing leader in a position is that the people under you will rarely follow willingly or give of their extra time, talent, or treasures. They just are clock watchers. They are watching the clock to hit 5 o'clock so they can punch out. And they don't want to give any more time to it because you haven't won them to the cause or to yourself. You may struggle to lead volunteers or gifted people or younger people or highly educated people because you don't have any leadership ability. You're a leader only in that you're in a position. Often the focus of a rank leader is that they are trying and focused on preserving their own title and position. So rank is foundational, and you see the other four parts or levels to this pyramid, that it is foundational to the building, and it is the first entry level. The entry level for a leader is to be given an opportunity by being placed in a position in order to test them to see if they're going to be willing to do what is required of them to develop and go up through the ranks or up through the levels of ministry leadership. The second one is relationships. Relationships in this level is based entirely on our ability to establish friendships or relationships with the people that we're leading. On this level, people follow because they want to. If you're good with people and building relationships, this level may come easy for you. But if you're not, the opposite may be true. And so the leader who develops, he learns to win people to himself. And through building relationships with them in one way or another, they want to follow because they are following you. They have bought into you. And the result is usually a stronger and better ministry environment and a stronger ministry effectiveness because now they're working together, not because they have to. That's rank. That's the entry level position level. But in this, they are bought into you as the leader. And so you have a position, and then you have relationship where people want to follow you. They give you permission to lead them. And then the third level is one of results. Now on this level, you're using the established ministry of relationships to maximize two things, effectiveness and efficiency. So leaders who reach this level get things done. They are productive. People follow because of what you have done for the ministry. In the rank level, they're following because they have to. In the relationship, they're following because they want to. And in the results level, they're following because of what you've done for your church, for your ministry, or your ministry within your church. And so the results of this is work's going to get done, morale is going to improve, and turnover goes down. Goals are achieved. So what you're doing in this, as change becomes possible, is that on this level, leaders can become change agents. They can tackle tough problems and face tough issues. They can make difficult decisions. They can take their people to another level of effectiveness and efficiency. They are people who can get it done. On this level, leading and influencing others can actually become enjoyable and rewarding, because now you have built this environment where you're more than just a position holder. You're more than just friends and have a relationship with them, but you've shown that you're capable of producing results. You're a leader that can get things done. It's not everybody else getting it done. You're orchestrating, coordinating, and able to collaborate everyone's gifts and abilities and relationships together. You're a good team builder, and in doing this, you're building leaders, and you're able to get things done. One is building upon the next one, because you're improving the very environment of your church culture, of the work environment, the ministry environment, the relationship environment. Everything is being enriched as you get things done. The fourth level is refinement. On this level, leaders use their ability to empower others. They are helping others become leaders. So the leader on this level, as you reach this level of leadership, you're going to use your position and your relationships and your results, your productivity, to invest in those you are leading, your followers, and you're going to develop them until they become leaders in their own right. You are going to refine, and you're enhancing, and you're developing this leader. So it's more than just building a relationship with them and you being productive. Now you're making them productive, and they're growing in their leadership ability, and the tide is rising, and every ship on the water line is rising with it. And on this level, teamwork goes to a very high level, because the investment in others deepens their relationships and helps people to learn and know each other better, and it's building loyalty. What you're doing is building a team that trust you and trust each other, and they're learning how to work together. But you're building leaders, and through doing that, this is happening. Then on this level, performance increases because there are more leaders that are investing in other people. And refinement leaders, they change people's lives. People follow because of what you have done for them. Not because they have to, not because they want to, and not because of what you've done for the ministry, but for what you have done for them personally. You have been a spiritual leader and mentor and discipler in their life, and they are advancing and growing and see the results of Christ at work in their life, and they are following because of what you've done for them. So ministries that develop leaders succeed because there are more horses pulling the wagon, more people rowing the boat, more people pulling in the same direction. So you have strengthened it. Maybe you've heard the illustration given: 1 horse pulling a wagon, 1 horsepower. 2 horses, 3 horsepower. 5 horses, and it goes exponentially and grows. As you latch on or hook on 1 more horse and keep increasing the number of horses, how much they can carry and pull is increased beyond the number of horses and the horsepower. So in doing this, the more leaders you are developing that are developing other leaders, the more people you've got pulling in the same direction, pulling your ministry forward and moving your ministry forward as they work together and partnering together and with Christ to fulfill God's calling for your ministry. Everything is being enriched. So the result is your ministry wins at fulfilling your mission. So you want to reach the level of refinement because of the payoff for you and for your ministry and for the cause of Christ. The last level, as you look at this pyramid, is you're building one upon the other, and everything about your ministry is growing richer and stronger and more spirit-filled and more spirit-led, and it's just a greater environment to minister in and to be in, is reproduction. In this level, Leaders develop refinement leaders. So you're going to develop leaders who are developing leaders. This is an opportunity to apply a discipleship model where disciple makers make disciple makers. At this level, develop leaders that develop leaders. And so now you've got this flywheel going, Jim Collins calls it in Good to Great, and your ministry is moving with momentum is building, and it takes a lot more to stop you because you've got so much momentum going as the flywheel is turning, as the wheel is turning, as your ministry is rolling along. It is building up speed but also force. And so it is more difficult to stop it, but it makes you more productive. This is going to take more work but yield greater returns for your ministry as you invest and commit yourself as the leader who is going to develop leaders that develop other leaders. That is going to take more of you, but it also is going to yield much greater return. And here's something that is wonderful. A culture is developed of reproduction where the thing about your ministry is that leaders can come there who God has both gifted and been building them. And they can be evaluated and enlisted, adopted into your program, and they can be developed and grow and can be a blessing to all they come in contact with. And it enriches and builds everything about your ministry. You want to develop a culture of leadership development, developing leaders that develop leaders that develop leaders. So you can see that these 5 levels, you want to show whatever your program or process, your pathway ends up looking like. You want to show them because this will energize people who have a vision to be used of God, feel called of God to lead and to invest themselves in others, that they're able to lead ministries in your church and be able to lead other ministries in your community, and that you're building leaders that build leaders. So there are some guiding principles. And John Maxwell deals with these in his book on the 5 levels of leadership. The first one, he says, is you can move up a level, but you can never leave the previous ones behind. So think of the pyramid that I'm showing you instead of a stairway or steps where it's just you're going up and you're leaving steps behind you. In this case, you're building a house and a foundation and walls and a roof, and one is built upon the other. So one builds on the previous one. It's a building process. It's a journey. It's not something you just reach in one and you're done. You're building and developing one layer upon another in your levels of leadership. Number 2, you are not on the same level with every person. People are going to respond to us based on the level of leadership we have with them. And we've got to learn that your level of leadership with each person and that level can go up or down at any time. So you've got to be able to discern, to critique, and evaluate where you are with those under your leadership so you can determine at what level are you. Are you just, they're following you because they have to? Are they following you because you have a relationship and they want to? Are you producing and so they follow you because of what you're doing for the ministry there? Or are they following you because of what you've done for them? Or are they following you because you have reached this level at the top where you're building them into being those who are able to build others and develop others into leaders? So understanding that you're not on the same level with every person in your leadership levels, you need to discern that and approach leading them based on your evaluation of where you are with them. Why are they following you is a good question to ask. The higher you go in the levels of leadership, from rank all the way to reproduction, the easier it is to lead because you're building your influence, and leadership is influence. Now, hopefully, it ought to be leadership for the right reasons. Ken Blanchard wrote a book some time back on the reason why we lead, and he wrote it to for-profit organizations and nonprofit organizations, and it's somewhat in that language as you go through it. but to understand that we are servant leaders, leading, serving a higher cause and a higher person in Christ and the cause of Christ, that we're doing everything for God's glory. The fourth guiding principle is that the higher you go in the levels, the more time and commitment will be required to master that level. Moving up, number 5, moving up levels occurs slowly, but going down can happen quickly. So building takes longer than destroying. What took you a lifetime or your adult lifetime to build may be gone in just a matter of moments. So you need to understand the high price of messing up. Another guiding principle, number 6, is the higher you go, the greater the return. The higher you go, the greater the return. Just think, as you have invested yourself in more and more people, and you're building a greater number of people who also are looking to grow and develop and to lead others and to be a leader who develops leaders, that the higher you go up in your own development, the greater the return. The ROI, return on investment, comes into play. Moving farther up always requires further growth. I'll tell you something that is of concern, as I have talked to thousands of pastors around the country in the last decade about their ministries, about their own personal development, and began to dig into it. What I find is that our guys are so busy preparing to preach, doing hospital visitation, other administrative work that is going on, but the way their ministries are designed, they are so overloaded, worn and weary, that having extra energy and time to invest in their own development becomes a real test and trial, so much that my guess is, from my talking and interviewing and surveying ministry leaders, is that the average leader in our country, in North America, only reads between 1 and 2 books a year that are applied to ministry outside of sermon preparation. Other words, on leadership, management, and ministry design, meaning outreach and edification and discipleship and guest services and other things that are a part of leading your church ministry. So going further up always requires further growth. And if you are not developing, how are you supposed to develop other people? Because there's some principles here that come into play. Not climbing the levels limits you and your people. Because when you change positions or organizations, you seldom stay at the same level. So let's go back to this one. Not climbing the levels limits you and your people. The Law of the Lid by John Maxwell, he says in the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, leadership ability determines a person's level of effectiveness. In short, your effectiveness in getting things done and your ability to work through others is always limited by your leadership, by your influence. The law of respect says people naturally follow leaders stronger than themselves. What this means is this. If you remain at a level 4, then you will never attract and keep any potential leaders that are better than a level 3. One of the burdens of leadership is that as we go, so go the people we lead. Reaching our potential as leaders sets an environment for others to reach their level. So when leaders stop climbing, 2 questions need to be asked. Can they improve, and will they improve? Some people can't. They've reached their limit. Others won't. Capacity is not the problem. Choice and attitude are. If people are willing to choose improvement and change their attitude, the sky's the limit. Now, if you want your ministry to grow all the way to reproduction, then you've got to grow all the way to reproduction so that you're developing refinement leaders who are developing other leaders that develop leaders. Now, to this other one, when you change positions, you go from one pastorate to another in an organization or in a church, you seldom stay at the same level. You're starting over again unless you're high enough up in the levels, at level 4 or 5, where you're known and you automatically have respect. as someone who has developed relationships and get things done for the ministry, and maybe you've invested your life in the people in that ministry, but usually you have to start from scratch at the rank or the lowest position or lowest level. And so you cannot climb the levels alone. None of us can. Leaders need others. Ministry is a team sport. And the Quaker leader, John Maxwell, said that C.W. Perry said that leadership is accepting people where they are, then taking them somewhere else. So this is really what the 5 levels of leadership in ministry is about, is that you're taking people from where they are to where God wants them to be, a good shepherding philosophy, but also a good leadership development philosophy as you set up your pathway so people can see where they're headed and what's required of them and how you're going to develop them. So leading requires that you help others grow and you go together to the top. It helps you to know where you're going, and it helps you to lead others when you know where you're going. Well, I'm Marshall Shannon, your ministry design coach with ministry design training and concepts. And you can reach us at this email address or either one of these 2 phone numbers. And it's our prayer that you would develop a clear picture of your leadership development process so that people can see what they're committing to, and so that you'll be able to develop your theology of leadership development and be able to develop your process and program so that at the very front, as you begin to invite people into your leadership program, that you know each step of the way, and showing them the levels can challenge them to go with you.